Hi, I'm Jen with Roving Crafters, and this is Sunday Stitch. And in this Sunday, we're going to take stitches and we're going to make them into something else. We're going to take our knit stitches and turn them into purls, or our purl stitches and turn them into knits, which of course can be a very handy skill if you've ever done one when you should have done the other. There is more than one way to do this. In fact, there is probably an infinite number of ways to do this, so I'm going to show you more than one. And the first way is going to be with a crochet hook, because that's so easy. Let's say I wanted to take the center one of these three knits and turn it into a purl. So with my other needle, I'm going to slip all the stitches over until I get to the one I want to change. And I do that slipping purl-wise with the right needle, go in as if to purl, and then just pass it over to the right until you've reached the one that you want to change. This is a knit stitch and we want it to be a purl stitch. Okay. Stretch it out. I said big because what I want you to take a look at is the row below. The stitch from the row below. If here's our stitch, then this little loop, of course, is from the previous row. Take your right tip and go into that row below stitch from the back to the front and grab it. And then take this one, pop it off. It's not going anywhere. You wiggle it free so you have your stitch on the right needle from the row below, and you have your yarn that you were using to make the row above. We want to take this one from a knit to a purl, and here is the easiest way. Turn it around and look at the other side. Maybe this would be your wrong side. Grab your hook, and I'm going to pick up this stitch with this hook and slide it off my needle. Put that one down. So I'm going to take my extra yarn that I'm going to use to make my new stitch with, and make sure it's in the back. Pick it up so that they are both on the hook. Draw through your extra loop of yarn through the stitch from the row below. Ta-da. And what I've done here is I've turned it into a knit stitch on this side so that when we turn it around, it's a purl stitch on the opposite side. Take it from the crochet hook and pass it back to the knitting needle. There you go. You have a purl. The great thing about this method with a hook is you can drop an entire line of stitches and change them all. Change them all at once. There we go. Flip it. Here's all of all the yarn that we're going to use to make the new stitches with each row. So I've dropped them 3 times. I'm going to make 3 new stitches, and I'm going to start by taking this hook, pushing it into the loose stitch. Take my working yarn next, so that I'm calling this the working yarn. Think of it that way. You've got your working yarn and then your active loop, and draw the working yarn through the loop, and then repeat. Working yarn before and next the loop, draw the working yarn through the loop, and through the loop. Turn it back around, which can be a little awkward because you've got too many things to handle here. And pass it from the crochet hook back to your knitting needle, and voila, you've made a whole bunch of knits into purls. If you wanted to use the same method, if you have this, which is purls, and you want to turn them into knits, pop them loose. I'll just drop 2 here. Well, you don't have to turn it around, of course, because if I'm taking purls and turning them into knits, there's no turning to the other side. When you're doing this technique with the crochet hook, you're making knits. Like that. You purl into a knit. So that's one way with the hook. But what if you don't have a hook? If you're a knitter and you don't crochet, you might not have a hook. And this is where I could give you the hard sell and say, yes, but this is why you need to go and own at least one crochet hook. But okay, maybe you don't have one. Put that aside. Because of course there is a way to do it with just knitting needles. I'm going to take this knit stitch and turn it into a purl with the knitting needles. Okay. I'm going to go into the row below with my right tip back to front and pop that off. Wiggle it free. Pass it from the right needle to the left needle. And take your loose yarn, remember we're calling it the working yarn, and pick it up with your right tip. Doesn't really matter how you do it, because we want to pick it up and put it on the left needle far enough over so that it crosses in front of the stitch we're working with. Once you've got your loose yarn crossed in front, take your right tip, go in to the stitch as if to purl. We're going to take this tip and dip down and grab, yeah, I'm going to show you that a few times. Go in as if to purl. Then you're going to dip this tip down to where you catch that cross that's in front. Pull it through the loop that's on the needle out to the back and off. And now you've made a purl. You have made a purl that is sitting backwards. See how it sits backwards? Which is just one little more thing to do. Pick it up from the back, turn it around, put it on there till it's right. Let's do that again. The row below with the right tip. Pick it from back to front. Pop it off. Wiggle it free. Slide your row below stitch back to the left needle. Take your loose working yarn, bring it onto the left needle, but that's not good enough. It has to be all the way over here so that it crosses in front of the stitch we're working with. Then with your right tip, go in as if to purl. Dip down, grab that crossed loose yarn and pull it through the loop there, out to the back and off. Pass it back to the left, pass it back to the left, and then remember to turn it around. Or you pass it back to the left and turn it around all in one move, which, as you can see, I've done so often that it's kind of like second nature to me. Sorry, I had to take a quick break there. There was a little bit of bad cat action going on over there. So what I still have left to show you is how to turn a purl stitch, like here we have these 3 purls, into a knit stitch using your knitting needles, not using the crochet hook. Now, of course, you could just turn it around, look at the knit side, and do the same maneuver we did before, but there is a way without having to do all that flipping around to take these purl stitches and turn them into knits. And here we go. So I'm going to pick up the stitch from the row below, just like we did with the knits. I'm going to pick it up with my right tip, and since we're looking at the purl side, it's not an open loop, it's a purl bump. Come in from the bottom, go up to the top, and pick up your stitch from the row below, and we've got this, which will be our quote working yarn. We want to wiggle that free. This working yarn needs to be on the other side. So, I drop it free. Pull it over to the back and pick this stitch back up. And notice I've picked it up so that it's facing the right direction. That'll be important. So it's facing the right direction. and then take your working yarn, your big extra loop of yarn, and put it on your right tip. You'll know you'll have it right when they are slanting in the same direction, and the loose working yarn is towards the tip, and the loop from the row below is on the right side. With your left tip, pick up that loop, and you're going to bring it up and over your working yarn, kind of like it was a one stitch bind off. I like to trap it, make sure it doesn't go anywhere. Just like that. And pass it back to the left. And notice that again, it's on there backwards. So turn it back around. Let's do that again. I'm going to pick this up from the row below, my right tip, pop it off, wiggle it loose. Now I have to get this looseness to the back. However you want to do that is up to you. I always drop it free, push it back there, and pick that loop back up. Now I have my loop from the row below, and I have my quote working yarn. Put that on your right tip. Use your left tip to pull your one below stitch up and over your working yarn. I like to trap, and off the other side and free, and you've turned it into a knit stitch. Pass it back to the left, except it's backwards, so turn it around. So there we go. There's a couple of different options. Turning knits to purls and purls to knits with your needles or with your hook. One of those is going to work for you. I just know it. So I hope this gets you out of whatever little troublesome spot you find in your knitting. And until next time.